Hey guys, so I had a couple questions on the summer homework, so this is just to clarify a couple of things. So, first question is I forgot to mention there are two documents for number 8, Stonehenge. This is the graphic organizer, the kind of more traditional one that you can take notes on, but I did also include one of the other style, so you can kind of see, every once in a while we do these mostly on architecture, but you can see how this is a different way to set it up. So if you'd rather just take notes, more traditional format, this just kind of shows you a few of the questions that you could be considering when you're doing Stonehenge. So if you come across vocab terms, architectural terms, you can always write them out just so you can kind of familiarize yourself with them. We'll get more into vocab when we start class, so don't worry about vocab too much at this point. And then, it says what types of stones. So on your graphic organizer, that would be under the materials section. How are the different stones used in the layout, and how much do they weigh? So those would be mostly like boxes 2 and 3. How long did it take, and what are the 3 theories on the motivation or purpose? So you can see how it's the same, basically like information, it's just in a different format. So you can do either, you don't have to do both of them. If you want to try this one instead of the other one, just to see how it goes, that's totally fine, okay? This is an example of a finished one. So I'm kind of giving you guys a little bit of the information for number 11. Because somebody asked about what a finished one might look like. So like we said, the ones you guys are doing, these first 11, might not have a lot of information for them. So this is number 11, the terracotta fragment. When I go to the article, and I kind of skim it, and it's talking about how the archaeologists are excited. The main piece of information here is that it's showing the Lapita people started out in the Southeast Asia area, and then they migrated and ended up in more of Polynesia. Okay? Whether you know those terms or not, it's okay. Kind of gives a little bit of the background, but for the most part, this is just explaining the puzzle, which we don't necessarily need to know. So this is just kind of showing you like how they migrated. When I keep going through this article, then they're talking more about the history of the people, how they moved in. And one big thing right here is the sophisticated seafaring navigation capability. This is a clue based on these terracotta fragments that we know about the Lapita people, and they manufactured and decorated them. We don't have information on why they kept having to go to new places. So, like I said, we don't always have the information on these older pieces, so it's okay to leave things blank. It says we can only theorize. Unless they give you a prevailing theory, you don't need to explain about it, okay? So then we actually get into a little bit more of the specifics. So this is where I'm going to get a little bit more of my information just on what the pottery is about. So it's low fire. That means they would have placed it in open fires. They didn't have kilns. They were made by hand. Basically, they know that it wasn't used for cooking, so the evidence suggests it was used for serving food or storage. Okay, so I keep going through. Clay is an important part of the materials. They mixed it with a type of sand, and then as they started doing their research, the clay and sand are found only in certain areas of the Pacific. So this is kind of going through how, because of that, they know they've found some of these pieces of pottery on islands that don't have the clay. So they know that the Lapita people had the means to travel and trade across significant ocean stretches. So it's a little bit more information about the Lapita people. Okay. This gets into a little bit more of what the pottery looked like. Stamped, incised motifs. We're going to get to vocab words in a little bit. But it was regular and structured, specific patterns. They were made with some sort of sharp tool or free-handed, and linear curved. once it was decorated, paste to white coral, etc., etc. So I'm not going to read the whole article for you. So just kind of showing it based on that information. When I transfer that to this, then you can see box number 2 when I talk about my elements and principles of art, specific patterns, geometric and anthropomorphic shapes. And now it says earlier, because that was part of the earlier, the older pieces would have that. Designs became more simple. Artistic decisions about material and processes. It was a low fire, it was stamped and sized. They would apply a white coral paste over the clay to make contrast to the design student. And they had to follow strict design rules, which means the artist couldn't just do what they wanted to. And you'll see that that's a pretty common occurrence in these first few units especially. So in context, the Lapita people migrated. We talked about that. They had a high level of seafaring navigation. Intended function. Evidence shows used for serving or storage. Who was it made for? And how would that influence artistic decisions? We don't have a whole lot, so the basic assumption is this is for the general population of the Lapita people. Okay. Design became more simple. Still made at continuity. It's still made in that way, they said, like currently. Influence, they said that the designs are seen in contemporary tattoos and that sort of thing. Okay? And this is my little sketch. We're going to come back to that too. You guys don't have to have this look exactly like this, obviously, but these are designed to let you be a little flexible. And the back side is going to be empty. So any notes that, if you're not sure where things fit in and you just want to take notes on the back, that's fine too. Another idea is if you come across vocab words that you're not sure what they mean, or questions like, what is lime? Then you can put those on the back too, and then when we get to class and we have discussion, then we can, go over those so you don't forget about that. Okay? So hopefully that gives you a little bit more of a feel for how you can glean from the article and then translate that onto the page. Don't worry too much if you put things in the wrong box, because especially the first month or so, if you get confused on which box is which, because all these 4, 5, 6, there's a lot of overlap. And as long as you're getting the information, if it's not in the right box, it's okay. You're not going to get marked down for that. Don't worry. Okay? All right, one last thing. Down here, they do have more resources. You do not have to go through them, but sometimes it's helpful to click on them and just see what they are, because this is going to take me actually to a better picture of it. So on this picture, you can actually see there is a face on this that you might not know from the other one. So you can get a little bit of a better feel. It doesn't say much. The other article is much more extensive. Okay. The other thing too is that at the bottom here, people have asked questions. So sometimes if you go down here, somebody might have asked the same question that you had. So like, what size is it, right? So it's 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters tall. So that's kind of helpful. And then they actually linked a resource that you could follow on to. But sometimes that's kind of helpful. If you have a question and you want to ask the author, then you can by all means submit it. The authors are still working on that. And then sometimes they give you a tip, but most of this is just thanks. But the questions, sometimes helpful. Sorry, my neighbor is tracking down his dog. All right, so hopefully that answers any questions on how you can translate this onto the worksheet. So this would be, more than enough for your first 11. As we get further into it, you'll have more information. You'll get more used to it. So don't worry about if you have it like exactly right. I'm not going to mark off like, oh, you didn't have that in that box. It won't be that kind of grade. You're just practicing the terminology and how to look, at the pieces of artwork at this point. Okay. I will also start cutting out some of this wording so that these boxes are a little bit bigger for you. But since you're doing these first ones on your own, I wanted to make sure you had you know, the kind of little prompts for like, oh yeah, this is what context for function is, and that sort of thing. Okay, all right. So if you have any questions, keep them coming, and I'll you know, get information back to you guys as I can. Okay, thanks. Bye.